Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Ask Expert initiative, an event which is brought to you by the soft skills stream of the Global BE community. My name is Jan Mazurek, and as always, I will have the pleasure to be your host today. So the topic that we have for this episode, as for every other episode as well, is always selected by the audience who is watching us live. So please stay with us till the end of this episode and help us choose the topic for the next one. At the voting for this topic's episode, we had a funny situation because for the very first time there was a tie between two results with the same amount of votes. However, as ethics was the topic that several times was a runner-up, we decided to proceed with this topic as selection for today's episode. And the reason for that is that in today's technology-driven world, ethical decisions are no longer just about the leadership concerns. They are part of everyday work in IT that, from AI automation to data privacy, workspace culture, we constantly face the choices that can actually change and can be affected by our values, by our judgment. So that's why today we will explore the topics of ethics and what it really means in this world of the modern technology, how we can navigate the space between what's easy and what is right. It's not always the same answer. It's not always easy to choose. But as always, we have great experts aligned for this session. So without further ado, let me introduce them one by one, starting with the first expert, who is Chris Carter. So Chris, welcome to the session. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience, tell a couple of words about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Carter, as you can see on screen. I am a Deputy Service Manager, so I work in the Courts Tribunal Service in the UK. Been doing that for 25 years. Everything that I say on this episode are my thoughts and my thoughts alone. I do not represent the department. I do not represent the UK government. I do not represent the UK Courts Tribunal Service. These are just my thoughts and experience of having spent that amount of time kind of in those areas. My kind of focus, so I'm almost at that integer between sort of product development, service development, and also the end users as well, whether that be sort of citizens, other government departments as well. So ethics kind of does play quite a big part, because people that will be using some of the services that I've been involved in are probably using those services at a really difficult point in their lives, whether it be kind of going through probate, going through any kind of challenges to civil money claims or anything like that. So really, really interested and looking forward to kind of getting going. Nice to meet you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us. We also have Katalin. So Katalin, could you also introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi everyone. Yes, I'm dialing in from EPAM, Hungary, and I've been working in technology for 2 decades exactly. Been with EPAM for over 14 years, which is telling its own history. During that time of the last 20 years, I've been focusing on trust building and relationship and engagement development with our clients, because that's a key, I believe, to achieve great confidence level, which is somehow the baseline of ethics that we are going to touch base today.
Super happy to have you with us, and terribly sorry for my mistake, which I did, because I forgot to update the presentation with your title. I have the picture, I have the name, I have the experience. Just forgot to update the title of your position. My mistake. Hope you will forgive me this. But
you're super smooth in disruption management.
And last but not least, we also have Yaroslav with us. So Yaroslav, could you also tell a couple of words about yourself and your role at EPAM?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Yaroslav, or Slava, short form Slava Tomilchik. I am with EPAM from the January of 2001. I came to the company when it was like barely over 200 people, and since then I moved through the career. Started with project management, some resource management. Then I stepped into the HR leadership position. I was HR director for Belarus, and then HR director for CIS, which is Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Armenia, so on. And 8 years ago, I moved to the chair of ethics and compliance, and since then serving as director of ethics and compliance. I have background in physics. I graduated from Belarusian State University, nuclear physics, if it counts, but never worked any single day with science or experimental, neither fundamental. So it is. So now I'm here, and a pleasure to be here today. Thanks.
So this is something that we have in common, because I also graduated technical physics at university.
Great.
Yes, so also never worked a single day in the field of my education.
Yeah.
However, I always say that if AI will ever replace me, I always have a backup career on which I can focus, and I can go to teach physics in school, for example. That might be a possibility. But nevertheless, let us begin in that case our meeting today. So we already had the opportunity to meet our experts. So as always, I start with the first question that I have every single time, because we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different upbringing, different education, different work experience. So we also have maybe a different definition of the word ethics. So the first question which I have for you is, what exactly does ethics mean in the context of your profession and your day-to-day activities, whether it's within EPAM or maybe even sometimes outside of EPAM? So Yaroslav, maybe as you were the last one to introduce yourself, maybe let's start with you on this question.
Yeah, okay. So my occupation contained two words, ethics and compliance, and these two came hand in hand. And they walk hand in hand and they act hand in hand. And while compliance sets the guardrails of our behaviors, compliant with our internal policies and local laws or international laws, ethics help us driving through complexity when the rules run out. So ethics drives our choices when the rules are absent or unclear.
Mm-hmm. Following just the judgment, the feeling, the experience, right?
What book did your parents read you when you were a kid? What the person you are, what values you have. So what are your human standing is for this or that problem. So compliance brings formal set of instructions and pathways, and ethics driving decisions when instructions run out.
Katalin, what about your definition in your day-to-day work?
Just to nail that down. Yes. So Slava mentioned, I believe, a great call-out, and I would reflect on that, because to me, ethics means a really wide horizon, which means that this is rather a reflective mental model, which is coming from your core values. And when we speak about corporate culture, this is also something which I believe has to be embedded into the organization itself. On the other side, when we speak about ethics, people are often thinking only about the compliance aspect, or nowadays, as you know, design have been truly promoted, and high-end products are coming with great designs and mature design activities like user-centered design, ethical design. These kind of things are in there at the hype. But I believe that in my profession, working with technology, from consulting, early client engagement up to delivery measurement and whatever, so the entire development life cycle, starting from the client engagement stage, the full process internally and externally depends on ethics. And this is a good, again, Slava mentioned this good call out that sometimes work instructions are not existing. That's my experience. This is why we need to set the rules. set the rules of ethics, set the rules of how to work and behave properly internally, externally, because that's going to succeed and put the world into a better place.
Thank you so much. Chris, does it look different outside of EPAM?
So I think for me, even if we just kind of are just sort of thinking about technology, I think for me, ethics, it almost comes down to one simple kind of question or simple thing. It's just because we can do something doesn't mean that we always should do it. Because it's about thinking about the fairness, the transparency, accessibility, and privacy about it all as well. So it's a case of just because we can improve efficiency, that's just one measure of success. We need to, so just because it's the fastest doesn't mean it's necessarily the fairest as well. So we need to kind of be factoring in all of those things as well as was previously mentioned about compliance. We need to be thinking of all those things as well. So it's what are the different measures of success for things as well. And I think ethics has to play a massive part in all of that as well, because we've got different types of people using some of the products that we will be developing, that we've kind of released. We need to be thinking about all those various different use cases. And we've discussed previously about all these kind of all the potential opportunities, all the potential kind of use cases out there, especially in kind of in government and in justice. We kind of really need to be honing in on those things, and because it's all about public trust in some of these things as well, and some of that, and the way that you get across some of that public trust is making sure that you are doing things that are fair, that are transparent, and have actually look at all those privacy things as well, and you're doing it in a very transparent way.
Now, I've mentioned that each and every one of us comes from a different background and has different experience, right? So we might also be facing completely different ethical dilemmas on our day-to-day work, or deal with people who are facing certain ethical dilemmas. So what are the couple of examples, if you can share some of the examples of ethical dilemmas in your surroundings, either the ones that you experience yourself or people around you are facing? Maybe Katalin, maybe let's start with you on this one.
Okay, just recap on a couple of most recent examples, because we posted conference, pre-event meetups in the last couple of days, and we have brought up so many different cases, what we've gone through. Based on my personal experience, that comes with very early stage, like even tendering. What kind of quality gates you're embedding into your system to make it fair? What kind of quality gates will mean what kind of decision points to you? That means giving you a real life use case. I have seen so many different companies, global large companies, who are, let's say, neglecting, ignoring, or just not, listening to IT as a quality gate in their, let's say, procurement or intake management process, which is a key to failure and to pitfalls. We all know this. This is one thing which is, I don't believe, ethical at all, because that may go into a direction when vendors may, put companies' weaknesses into their own benefit. So I believe that to make it even fair, this is one point. The other side, technology selection, again, if this is not a group of experts from different competencies, then that will mean at the end of the day that you are not representing everyone's purpose and everyone's success criteria in the full process. So that will mean that you may face situations and you may see that several, let's say, purchases or intakes or new projects are getting developed which are not in alignment with the overall technology strategy or technology roadmap. Talking about proposals, vendors are often overestimating things that are simple enough, and that's not going to build trust with the client. So this is not something like a long-term partnership. Obviously, internally, again, cheating inside of the team, overestimating things, underestimating things. So there are so many different abstraction levels to me in that sense. But all in all, if I have to conclude, I would say that I have seen so many different people who are unaware of how things should work. And this is why we are the bridge as business analysts to get them closer to their main end goal, for instance. And I never understood when, this kind of unawareness is turned or pushed into some kind of inconvenience or unreal decisions because of pressure, because of, people are using others' weaknesses to put into their own benefit. That's what I can't cope with. Yes.
Like a product owner coming in the middle of the sprint saying, could you please just put this one feature into the sprint? Like, really, we need it. Not necessarily following the process.
Look, if this is something, so I was never, let's say, that kind of frigid person who is against, any kind of roadmaps or disruptions. But believe it or not, it may happen when this is about compliance or legal stuff. Like it turned out that something wasn't properly designed. At the end of the day, that will cause so many different, let's say, penalties or disadvantages, competitive disadvantages to companies, then they have to react fast. And this is not an evil thing, what you just mentioned, if it's having the right purpose in a timely manner.
It's like, being compliant with the rules in a certain country, GDPR regulations, something like that, for example. Slava, what about yourself? What kind of ethical dilemmas or problems you face or people around you? If there are some examples that you can share with our audience.
Some of examples I cannot share with you because they're under
investigation and
yes. But you know what? Generally, people are trying to behave and do the right thing. Not everyone succeed, but most of the people consciously trying to do their best to achieve what is right. Sometimes the pathway to this right goal offers a compromise, offers a choice. And this, moral principle, do the right thing the right way, sometimes obeyed or bypassed for the greater good, some people think. But 99% of the cases we are observing or investigating, if you want, we knew that people always knew when they fail to follow the right pathway. There is always a moment when you're taking this or that decision, when something, kicking you from within, and this, momentarily discomfort stays with person. And this is when your ethical system, or we can talk about it later, maybe integrity calls you. And this is something telling us about people as a whole. Most of them, vast majority of them, are trying to do the right thing the right way. Some of them failed not because they're bad people, they just don't understand or doesn't count how to calculate these moves the way it stays right pathway. And it's always a dilemma, and it has many implications. But the general rule is, whatever dilemma is, most of us knew when we are trying to bend around the rules.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yaroslav, I'm not going to get into specifics because I'll get in trouble. So I think some of the dilemmas are around that whole speed and trying to manage almost that time, cost, quality, scope kind of triangle. Not that it's a triangle now with scope added in, but it's about because wanting to move quickly, especially with sort of digital transformation, AI, and trying to kind of be ahead of the game, trying to make the best use of things. But it's it's thinking about then the risks as well and the risk appetite for some of it. Within that, what's our level of risk in there? What are we comfortable with? But that, I think some of that comes from, and this is almost another dilemma, is people then speaking up and saying, hold on, that doesn't quite feel right to me. And it's about, I know we talk a lot about psychological safety in some of this as well, because some people might recognize that a concern, they almost identify a concern, but they worry about being seen as either being negative, obstructive, or just generally slowing things down. So they might go, okay, I won't say anything. But then when it actually happens, they're like, well, I thought that at the time. So that's why I think as part of all this ethical kind of debate, we need to make sure that we've got the right culture within teams so that people can speak up. And because, as you say, everyone comes at it from a slightly different, with different backgrounds, with different levels of experience, with different viewpoints on things. And that's why you need that multidisciplinary, multicultural, multi-experience, multi-everything, so that but still creating that culture that people can then speak up. And as almost as blasé as it sounds, I think it's your job is a lot of the time to just go, when something doesn't feel right to you, when you've got that feeling in your gut, you just need to say it. If someone goes, okay, I hear you, we're gonna go ahead with it anyway, fine. Almost from an ethical, moral point of view, you've done the right thing by saying it. Your senior manager or a senior is choosing to do something different, to whether it because their risk appetite is actually it's fine for right now, we'll fix it later, or we'll do something about it later. But I think from a moral point of view, you've got to own your own kind of thinking, and you've got to own your part of that process.
Now, you've mentioned a very interesting thing about the multicultural environments, and I was actually wondering, there are certain countries where when you have a commercial in the TV, you can promote your product by bashing your competitors. Like, I'm sure some of you have seen the Pepsi commercial when there was, bashing Coca-Cola in a commercial, just car comparison, when Audi was saying that, BMW is worse, so on and so forth. And some countries, some people find it unethical to promote one thing over the other. And I was wondering, how does culture overall fit into the aspect of ethics? Because you've all been working across multiple countries, across multiple domains with people from all over the world, right? So have you noticed any correlation between aspects of ethics, compliance, and the culture of it? So Chris, maybe as you touched the
I'm
topic,
the one that brought it up. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. It's really difficult because I think I don't think there's probably anything that stands out and jumps out to me in some of this, but I think it's understanding. Well, I think some of it is very much depends on the scenario, so it's hard to be a bit hypothetical about some of these things, but some of the culture is just, even sometimes just understanding other people's culture and understanding other people's backgrounds, and being curious on it as well actually helps everyone in the long run. So yeah, I think that's where you need to be curious about things. And even when I've moved around quite a bit, like I'm sure some others have as well. It's when you start that job, you need to be asking all your questions need to be why, to A, because it helps you learn, B, it then kind of people that have been doing it for a while start to then really kind of question it as well. But just kind of coming back on the whole Pepsi versus Cola, there's loads of different experiences almost kind of all over Twitter or X, where loads of different restaurant chains in America all start to kind of comment on each other's posts and do it in a very kind of humorous way. And I think sometimes we can get so focused on the negative of things. Actually, the way in which that you say something, the way in which that you raise something as well, if you're doing it in a very kind of curious and open way and just wanting to kind of to know more, or just I'm raising this for this valid reason, I think people will then get that and understand that. And if it's a case of, if you're then open to receiving any kind of criticism or receiving any kind of feedback as well, I think that stands out as well, to go, I'll tell you what, that's fine because of this, and this. Okay, great, right, fine. So then next time I have that kind of gut, or next time I kind of have that scenario, I can then use that information, use those lessons as well. I'm not sure that necessarily answers your question.
It kind of does, because it's kind of also about, again, identifying while talking to people and being curious, where are the boundaries of different people, where are the boundaries of the cultures, right? Like, I know that, for example, with me being an EPAMer working on a project, going to you know, I don't know, United Kingdom or going to Canada, I need to observe firstly to see what is the communication style, what is the, let's say, level of engagement used on that particular project, right? So it kind of also helps me then to adapt my communication style and adapt to the surroundings, kind of. Katalin, do you also have the same perspective, being a business analyst yourself and working also on multiple projects?
Not really. I would divert your question and tweak it a little bit, because you have brought up, I believe, an ad which is quite misleading and I would say untransparent or unfair. Let's put it that way. And to me, this is not a cultural question. I mean, not about geolocation specific culture, but rather something like generational analysis and generational research. And why I love to be a millennial, to be honest, because I started to believe that we started to learn from past failures, and the world is trying to be more conscious with new generations, which means that companies has recognized that customers even more getting more conscious. At the same time, I believe that, and I'm hoping for it truly, that companies recognize that kind of loophole in the system, that they have to become even more transparent, even in their communication, in their public relations. When we speak about GovTech, this is one thing. When we speak about different industry sectors, such as CPG, such as travel, such as oil and gas, you need to be fully transparent. Otherwise, you are going to, fail. And this is, to me, rather a generational dilemma or a generational evolution, what I see based on this kind of how we are making the world to become a better place. Culture, you are very right, but there was some kind of misalignment to my own perspective with that example that you mentioned before. Culture, I think, is absolutely fair point and fair call out, because we need to adapt properly to cultural specifics when we deal with cultural differences. But again, as we are learning, as we are evolving as humans, this has become even more natural to everybody.
Now, Yaroslav, yourself and Chris, you've mentioned in the introduction that you've been working for around 25 years in the industry, right?
In different companies.
Yes, of course, different companies, but still 25 years of experience for yourself. So, have you noticed any kind of shift in terms of approach towards the topics of ethics and compliance over the course of those 25 years? Or is it still pretty much the same, pretty much still standard approach? Because I think, from my perspective at least, I've noticed the rules and regulations and even the ethics trainings that we have as employees that we need to follow on the onboarding portal, it's being updated fairly regularly. But I was wondering, how do you perceive that?
I joined EPAM when it was like 200 people, barely over. And at that time, two co-founders, Ark Dobkin and Leo Lozner, they were the beacons of the culture that we are following. So there was no such diverse policy suite we had at that time. So we had most of the rules were like, follow me, do likewise. And from this point, there was nothing formal until we started growing, and we received ISO certification, CMMI level 5 certification, and so on and so forth. And then here we are, a public company with, dozens of thousands people and locations and everything. But what didn't, and again, complexity of our policy suite, it's tens of times more complex than it was then. But on the lowest levels, of the architecture of our values as a system, sits the same principles that I observed when I joined. Values individual, act with integrity, and so on and so forth.
Strive for excellence.
Strive
act
for
as a
excellence.
team.
Yeah,
Focus on the customer.
there was a couple of iterations where led us to the strive for excellence, delivering excellence in software engineering, and commitment to quality. It was the first corporate motto. So it was like this. Words were changed, but the real meaning of it never changed. And ethical trainings became more diverse and more rich because we had a lot of locations and we have a lot of local regulations we must follow. Some global things changed, like GDPR or United States sanctions or European sanctions. It's global modificators of the entire thing. Also, we are dealing in the dozens of locations with different cultures, and we have to provide some unified modificator for each and every location. And the best way to deliver this is transmitting our values, broadcasting our values by different ways, by different means, but practically, when coming back to your question, values itself didn't change much. The way we deliver them and the way we broadcast them changed a lot.
I very much liked what you mentioned when it comes to the change of wording. Now, this strive for excellence in different words. I remember I had a T-shirt of EPAM many years ago that said "fearless problem solvers," and that for me was like a very good, feeling, motivating me, engaging me to to be like, okay, there's a problem, I will tackle it head on, I will solve that problem. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, good old days. But these days are not that bad, by the way, because diversity in of our presence and our multi-location existence brings a lot to our development. We learn from different cultures. We learn from how we work with different cultures. And sometimes it's very hard, because when we first time started our trainings, we faced that in some locations, mostly ex-Soviet Union, there was one problem in common. They're all different sometimes, but one problem was pretty much common for each and every location. It was respect to the personal borders. Values individual was somehow diminished over communist times all over the place. Less in western parts
Countries.
of Soviet Empire, more in eastern. But again, it was partially it is still, and it's something we have to work with.
I think also knowing that there is a problem gives an opportunity to work on the problem. Like the first step in solving anything is to admit there is something to solve.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Chris, and how was it in the HMCTS or in general in your surroundings over the last 25 years?
Yeah, it's changed, but I think the culture is largely kind of the culture kind of standards have kind of been a bit more not rigid. It's almost some of the wording has changed because obviously, as Slav mentioned, with GDPR kind of coming in and other kind of bits and pieces in and around it, I think what with diversity and inclusion and generally the change in the workforce as well, I think actually just naturally kind of changes some of it as well. So it's not necessarily the training as such. It said, right, these are the things you need to be aware of. These are the things you need to be doing. I think has pretty much been kind of relatively standard apart from new bits of legislation, all those kind of things. But the way in which that you treat other humans as adults and not as children, I think has always kind of been there as the foundation. I think with an ever growing population and ever growing kind of workforce that changes almost with the high turnover of kind of staff as well, I think, and the curiosity that kind of comes with it and different professions coming in as well. So obviously with moving around, so I've moved around within the court service. So I'd started kind of in actually working in the court building, kind of serving customers at the counter, actually being there in court, supporting the judges and the people kind of there, and then moved into more headquartersy spaces, kind of doing some of the technology stuff as well. So I think moving around kind of changes your perspective on things as well and your different backgrounds. In terms of the training, yeah, as I say, it's probably largely remained the same. I think the way in which that people access that training has changed. Because back in the day, probably 2001, all kind of training was delivered face to face. And everyone kind of physically had to be kind of there. Whereas now you have a lot more of these kind of sessions. You have a little bit more of that online learning stuff that you can follow along at your own kind of pace. I think the methods of delivery for the training has changed, and I think that then allows different people, because everyone learns slightly differently. I think that then kind of helps everyone as well.
Did Brexit have anything to do with any kind of approach? I know it might be, Brexit might be a sore subject with you.
I'm no way I'm getting involved in Brexit. I'm not going to be responding to that one at all. No chance.
Okay, so skipping the Brexit question.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No worries. Katalin, how do you perceive this, evolution
What's the original
of the
question? I know, just joking. Look, I started my career with enterprise architecture, business architecture, and introducing quality management systems with hundreds of different business processes and work instructions and regulations and blah, 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 and policies. At that time, people were at their fully denial stage at corporate level. Why to adopt? How to adopt? As you just mentioned, I couldn't agree more with Yaroslav. The core values haven't changed. What's been changed? The journey. Just one, let's say, tag to put here is gamification. Simplified a lot in bringing up real life use cases to people to understand better, why this compliance related training or that kind of process have to be introduced to them and why do they have to pass it. What I also love, that this kind of maturity that comes even with L&D departments or even from compliance perspective is also orchestrating now across competencies what's needed in their case, what's applicable to them, what's globally adoptable or should be adopted. So these are great things. And I love the way how recently large global companies are reacting to this challenge. In a nutshell, that's my point.
Now, actually, I cannot avoid asking this question, although potentially not a popular one, because some people might feel exhaustion of this topic and fear of this topic. But what are the risks and concerns when it comes to the rise of AI in terms of the compliance and ethics? Do you think technology is behind or that far in front of the ethics and regulations for the AI? Katalin, what do you think?
It's question for
let's start with Katalin, as she was
okay.
For everyone, yes.
Actually, for everyone, but let's start with Katalin.
Technologies and tools are educated and customized by people somehow. However, large language models seem to learn on their own. Even though I would tend to say that it has to be educated to make it ethical enough, because obviously there are a lot of, let's say, industry rumors out there that certain security concerns are being impacted when companies started to adopt different AI tools in their corporate environment. So I believe that here security compliance needs to follow the own perimeter of a company itself. All in all, that's a way too broad question, that we are not going to tackle today.
There should be a
Probably that's a
completely
good
separate topic for AI approach.
yes. Yes.
All right. Slava, Chris, do you have different perception on this, or also would like to avoid talking about AI and concerns with that when it comes to ethics?
I mean, I think a lot of it is it's about trusting the output. Some of that is almost as Katalin says, it's about how you train it. But it's, are there human eyes on it as well? So automation, not to confuse automation with wisdom. So just because it's doing something quickly doesn't mean that it's always right. And especially with the rise of it, and it's across everywhere, whether it be social media posts, whether it be part of kind of decision making summaries of things. So it can actually be it could be quite a serious kind of impact as well, and it's understanding the accountability within some of that as well. And like we said before about transparency in there as well, it needs to be transparent that this decision, this thing that was created, has been done by AI. And even sometimes that makes someone go, okay, right, fine. Someone then might be staring at it a little bit more. Should someone be staring at it a little bit more? But from an accountability point of view, so if an AI supported decision, say, harm someone, who's ultimately responsible for it as well? So technology should help to support human judgment, not essentially just replace the human's responsibility in there as well.
Let me disrupt here for one more second, because this is where we are going to open up this conversation even wider. I'm not ignoring the question. I'm rather trying to tell you that people are not conscious when they are using AI, and this is what Chris very well described previously. Like when we speak with, yesterday evening, it came out on a workshop in our office from a large technology company's representative who is a high profile manager, that nowadays we talked about pre-sales activities, and what he just mentioned, that what's the hit rate, what's the success ratio of RFPs and responses, and we were just agreed on that AI is speaking with AI, so there is an output which is not every time validated, and then there is yet another generated output which is not truly in alignment, and there isn't a human in the loop kind of thingy which is navigating that scope, expectations, stakeholder groups involvement, and then providing the customized response, so we know what you want and we are going to deliver that for you. And this is not in alignment anymore. When people are not utilizing the patterns to create better insights and impact their prompts, their instructions to gain better outputs. This is also some kind of ethical thing, like you're trying to avoid the human in the loop, and this is the way, like we all agree, I believe, that AI is such a good thing if there is a good intention and the right purpose and usage, and you learn. So you are becoming micro-adaptive in every single hour based on the instructions, based on the learning curve, what you make with your good new friend, with your agent. That's it.
Yeah. Because I think even with even non-AI stuff, even if a human has produced something, you still have someone else, you still have another human reading that paper, checking it and looking at it. Why are we then going, just because it's produced by AI, that's it, it's good enough, out it goes? Why are we then kind of almost going back on some of the stuff that we've already kind of embedded within? Yes, it can write the thing in the first place quicker than probably a human can, but you still then need that human to be looking at it, because why are we then dropping that? I think it's things like that we go, actually, just because it's doing it quicker doesn't mean it's always going to be right. So you still need to have those checks and balances on it.
And I think, Slava, you wanted to also add a comment.
Yeah, I second this concept that human in the loop is a mandatory, because we do not know what AI's ethics is. It didn't build it, or when it will, either AI will be so generous to share it with us. We do not know. So we have to have human in the loop, and we have to have a last mile of execution covered by human. So decisions, execution button should be, publish, run, turn on or turn off. This thing must stay with human yet. But Katalin said that this very big subject, very big topic, and it deserves a separate discussion, and I can't agree more.
That we are happily participating as well.
Yeah.
All right, I will try to look into the calendar and try to organize something. But also, very interesting thing you all said about, trusting the output, right? And over the course of several last years, I've noticed among my peers and my surroundings is that people started to lose trust in the technology overall. I'm not talking only about the AI, but people say we cannot use WhatsApp anymore because it's spying on us, or Messenger will hear that I'm talking about Greece, and suddenly I will see only Greece vacation or tourist offers, right? And people started to lose trust in the technology overall. So how we can ensure that the technology still will remain human-centered, and how to rebuild that trust when it's lost, or maintain it if it's not yet lost forever. So Slava, maybe, since you've been 25 years at EPAM in this technology company, maybe you have some good tips and tricks to follow on the technology development.
There is the point in it that Big Brother brings in his big family of relatives, and now we have Big Brother, Big Uncle, Big Sister, and Big everyone. And AI is trying to put in the entire family and its generations to watch us. For what purpose, we do not know, because it's enigma, it's an app. Yeah, it changed, and the trust for technology, when you speak about your car maintenance at home, in a couple of hours, Google will kick in some ads relevant to what you said privately. And yeah, it's something that we have to consider, and this is something what GDPR thing was designed and implemented and embedding as we speak. There is no practical solution to make this fear or skepticism disappear. I think that some things are inevitable, and if advertisement industry sees the potential to maximize revenue, it will jump into your window at night with its product, whatever the cost. So we have to live with it. Fear maybe comes from these stories about blackouts or technology generated disasters and whatsoever. And this is something we can still work with. and putting human in the loop and at the end of the execution chain. It's something that may help us to bypass these events. But the fear, I would say that we do not have to have fear, and we have to be cautious about, and we have to have it in mind when we are working with. So cautious, yes. Fearless and paralyzed with it, no.
No. Okay. Thank you so much, Katalin.
Thank you.
I see you were nodding a lot during Slava's talk, so
Yeah, there's all the time great thoughts behind us. What I believe, this kind of fear is arisen from predominantly, I would say, unawareness again. Like people are unaware of what and how technology may use those kind of data. And I believe that this kind of fear, okay, let's divide that into two, because one is a realistic fear, the other one is an unreal fear, which is coming with social media. Social media, there is nothing to do with it, like what they are going to use our data, let's say posts and whatever, our presence, online presence against. That's one thing. I don't care about it, because if I'm an ethical person who live by its own core values, then I don't care, because there isn't, I can be in, there isn't any such situation. I will be in trouble because of my acts, because we are living in a modern world. But I'm overly optimistic all the time. Talking about the second part, which is a very real point that Slava mentioned, the blackouts. And again, I believe that since COVID, everybody learned that this kind of fast speed of adaptation is absolutely required for survival. That means that how I can prepare as a human being, make my life halfway offline, halfway online. So make sure that, I have all the surroundings and everything, all those assets that I'm going to need, if that will become a reality. Never know. Geography, climate changes, any kind of disruptions that may come out, we need to be prepared of it. Geopolitical situations, whatever. Fear of technology, again, in a nutshell, comes with unawareness of things. But again, being as I just mentioned, an overly optimistic person, I believe that right intention and having the trust in place, I believe that the world will not get worsened, and it's not going to be, let's say, a punishment planet.
I remember my grandma told me the story that when there was a person who came with the first record player in the village with this big ear tube coming from it, and the record was being played, there was one person in the room who said, "That's the devil speaking to us," right? So even at that point there was the fear of the technology, and I remember she told that story very vividly. So I think at every level in the human development there is the fear of technology. Chris, what about your point on this?
So a lot of it comes from. So I agree with everything that has come before. I think it's a lot of it. I mean, I'm seeing it even with my son. He's gone back to wanting actually record players. He's wanting to be listening to music, not streaming it on Spotify. He's wanting to be going back to cassette tapes, to CDs, to be hearing music in its in its rawest form. Because especially with everything kind of being on, whether it be on your smartphone, you've kind of got access to to everything. Actually being able to put that down and still kind of enjoy music, going out, playing in the park, and that sort of type thing. It's almost coming back full circle to go, actually, because it's so 24/7. It's actually sometimes I need to get that break from it, and I think we then need to be factoring in all those things when we're developing solutions, not just about people that are digitally confident in these things as well, people that have got those fears. What are then the business continuity plans for all these things as well? Because actually, if we've gone down full automation and we've got massive technology and we're getting all the benefits out of it, what happens when it all goes down? Have we actually documented all of those things when we're rolling something out, when we're implementing something? Do we fully know what the business then need to do if there is a blackout, if a server goes down, if whatever kind of happens? How do you then keep that system still running? Because even with kind of COVID, there was lots of different IT systems that were kind of out there that as soon as everyone was trying to log onto it from different locations, everything just fell over. And then it was like, right, business continuity plan, but the business continuity plan might not have been updated in a while, or it was a case of the business continuity plan is you move from this site to this site and you're all in a slightly smaller room. Well, I tell you what, for pandemic, that's not going to quite work, is it? So it's about thinking about the technology being human centered as well, but then it's also what happens if it actually all goes wrong. What's the human then have to actually do to process that without the technology?
Yeah, because still the biggest we had floppy disks, we had cassettes, we had CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, but still the information is mostly maintained in the books as the most, let's say, trustworthy source of information. And as we are approaching the end of today's episode, I would invite our viewers and also our experts to join Menti to help us select the topic of the next episode. So I'm sharing with you the link in the Q&A section of our today's event to participate in this, or you can just go to menti.com and type in 76632146 and help us select the topic for the next episode. Katalin, Yaroslav, Chris, you can also select the topic for which you would like us to cover next time. But the question which I have for you to finish, what let's say challenges or what risks when it comes to ethics you foresee in the upcoming year, 2, or maybe 5 years horizon? So Chris, let's start with you on this one.
We've kind of probably covered some of them. I think it's about transparency. It's about accountability. Some of the how do you handle some of that misinformation? So whether it be all the fake news and stuff that you kind of might be seeing, how do you kind of sift through stuff like that, and how do you counteract some of it as well? Digital exclusion, accountability, and human oversight, and where human oversight must remain, and where you could maybe get away with not doing it. But again, I think you can have as previously been said, I think you could have a whole session on AI and the ethics of AI.
Thanks so much. Katalin?
Same here. AI ethics, what I was thinking about is exactly monitoring and measurement system or AI-driven outcomes, and that's going to be our learning curve, I believe, in terms of ethics in many different ways that we will leverage from and adopt that to new ethics-related activities.
Slava?
I second what Chris and Katalin suggested, and I would only add that this new AI era will offer some pathways to first develop AI ethics, and second incorporate it into normal, so to speak, quote unquote, normal human ethics. Human ethics didn't change much, by the way, over time, and not just in EPAM for 25 years, but maybe couple of 100 years or couple of thousands. Some of the concepts survived from ancient Greek, but new chapter with AI will definitely add to it something, and it's yet to be discovered, I think.
All right. Thank you so much. And it seems that based on the voting, the topic for the next episode will be self-awareness. So we'll be sure to find the experts to cover that topic. And thank you so much for joining today. And special thanks to our panelists, Chris, Katalin, and Slava, for joining us today. So it seems that working with ethics, choice between the right and easy is not always very simple. But I do hope that conversations like this will help us make those decisions in the upcoming future, a bit easier. We will be able to make those decisions more consciously. We will see the development of the ethics world going forward as in the overall IT branch. So there's nothing left for me to say, but Slava, Katalin, Chris, to thank you so much for being with us today, and to hope to see you again in the upcoming future and in the next episode of the Let's Ask Expert Initiative. So thank you so much.
It was
Thank
our
you.
pleasure. Thank you
Take
so
Thank you very
much.
much.
Have a lovely day, everyone. Bye.